All right, let's have some fun with this game tonight. The Buccaneers on the road versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Tom Brady comes to town. Maybe a little bit of an issue here with his throwing thumb. Right now, as you look at the Buccaneers, they're really not putting too much emphasis on that. So I do expect Tom Brady to be fine for this football game. Three really good wide receivers: Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, along with Antonio Brown. No Rob Gronkowski this week, so maybe more eating in that slot position here from Antonio Brown. Two decent running backs. We have a good offensive line here for the Buccaneers. They should control the tempo tonight. And I haven't swayed off this all week, Kyle. When you take a look at the Philadelphia Eagles on their season, again, beat this dead horse here. Very good against Atlanta, who stinks. Okay against San Francisco, who's average. Okay against Carolina, end up winning that game against an average football team. The two teams with the upper echelon offenses, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Dallas Cowboys, did a lot of damage against the Eagles. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to me, Kyle, every bit as those two teams are on offense, where they can score and get up the field. The Eagles do have a decent secondary. They're actually top 5 in the NFL at pass yards allowed, which is fantastic. The only issue here is they give up so much in the running game that maybe you center on Leonard Fournette today and continuing to move the football. Weather conditions here in the city tonight, Kyle, they're beautiful. It's like 75 degrees right now, very light wind, no precipitation tonight, so it is scoring conditions. Remember a couple weeks ago, Kyle, we were talking about the Chiefs and the Eagles game, and I said, there is no better day. If you said, I need a perfect day for scoring conditions, that was it. And look at all the points they scored. 42-30 final, 72 points. So I think he gets 72 tonight? Probably not. But Tampa Bay should be good to go. So let's start to break this game down and have a little bit of fun with it. As I just said, my preamble, when you step up in competition, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a way better team than the Eagles. The one way you can get after the Buccaneers is through the air. Now, which Jalen Hurts are we going to see? The one that passed against the Kansas City Chiefs, which everybody is able to do, or the one last week for 3.5 quarters going, this guy needs to get cut. Where the hell is Gardner Minshew at? This guy stinks. Mm-hmm. They block a punt, they bail the game out, they win. So which team are we actually getting tonight? That Jalen Hurts from last week, or the one that's able to pass against a bad defense? Because the secondary can be had. Total in this game, Kyle, 52.5, 53 in that range. Buccaneers favored by 6.5. I got to tell you, I think the Buccaneers do win this game. We're going to get into it in a little bit more detail here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you. A couple big injuries on that defensive side of the ball for Tampa Bay. No Levante David's a big loss. He's their fast. He's an absolute beast. I mean, White is explosive as well. And, of course, Carlton Davis going to IR. So now Richard Sherman is filling in that bad secondary for Tampa Bay. And you touched on it. Tampa Bay has allowed the most passing yards of any team in the league through the first 5 weeks, and also the fewest rushing yards. So the recipe for the Eagles is simple. The ball is going to be in Jalen Hurts' hands. He's going to have to throw the ball that they're going to blitz. One thing I do like, just sort of shifting over to some props here. I took Jalen Hurts over. It's actually moved down to 41.5 rushing yards. Yes, Tampa Bay has a good rush defense, but that's not your typical type. They're good against turning around, handing it to the running back and stopping him. When you're going to blitz a mobile quarterback and you're going to play that man coverage or that 2-deep zone, if you escape that blitz and get out of the pocket, you're going to have big running lanes. Jalen Hurts is going to have to do it with his legs. He's going to have to do it with his arm. And the loss of Levante David certainly helps that. I considered, they talk about the over 284 passing yards as a prop. I considered it. He's done it a couple of times this year against some lower tier defenses. Just makes me a little bit nervous. Your favorite weatherman saying 15-mile-an-hour winds with some stronger gusts. I don't know how accurate that is. I know I'm just the deputy here, and I'm reading your favorite weatherman. I know the guy you go to for all your weather information, saying some stronger gusts. So maybe that makes me a little bit nervous here. In terms of sides, when I pick this, I don't want to take Tampa Bay on the road by a touchdown or more. I'd rather get under a touchdown. So for me, I focused on that first half. I do think the Bucs come out and start fast. So I took the Buccaneers -4 in the first half, did a little sprinkle on that, hoping that comes through. Been burned by that a couple times this year, but I think they can get there. But one thing I'm really looking at is Jalen Hurts running tonight. He should be their leading rusher. And I like some of those, like the Kenneth Gainwells out of the backfield, etc. These receiving backs. The running backs are not going to run for a lot, but they should be involved in that passing game tonight with that blitz at Tampa Bay. So that's sort of where I'm focusing on this game.
I don't know whose weather report that was, but I'm looking right here. It's supposed to be 70 degrees at kickoff with 3-mile-an-hour winds.
Perfect. Okay, that's perfect. Well, it's your favorite. It's your favorite. Good old Kevin Roth, always giving us those accurate weather reports that always burn us.
I mean, I don't understand. I'm close to the stadium as is. I just walked my dog a couple minutes ago. Unless there's a tornado whipping up here, it's absolutely beautiful outside. So I don't know anything about the weather conditions being an issue tonight. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles, where they play, they are close to a section called Point Breeze for a reason. It's always a little bit windier down in the stadiums than it is, in Center City or out in the suburbs. I understand that. But in no way, shape, or form am I looking tonight as we're going going to have weather conditions that would be anything that would be inducive or, not conducive to scoring. It's beautiful out here. So if we look at the game itself here, Kyle, the Philadelphia Eagles on offense. Jalen Hurts is a mobile quarterback. He should have time to throw. Why? Because he makes his own time to throw. It's just a matter if he's going to be able to hit his wide receivers and make the correct reads. Because as we said, he was abysmal last week for 3 quarters, woke up when it was time to play football, and the Eagles walked away with the victory. You can't get away with that tonight. But I really want to center this game around the offense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady's the best player to ever live in the NFL. He seems like, Father Time is not catching up. Now he has the thumb injury. Okay, well, Tom Brady's had a ton of injuries. And I always bring up the one where 3 years ago, 2017 season, where he sliced his, thumb open in practice and they crazy glued it shut. They beat the Jaguars, then threw for like 500 yards against the Eagles in the Super Bowl. I don't anticipate any problems. That's a really good offensive line. They should keep the pass rush off of Tom Brady. Leonard Fournette's an okay running back. Ronald Jones is an okay running back, but they should move the football. Why? Because everybody runs against the Philadelphia Eagles. They drop back to 2 safeties. Their 2 linebackers for the Eagles are horrendous, but the corners and the safeties are okay. So maybe they can limit the damage in the passing game because the Eagles' MO right now is we'll give you as much as you want underneath. You're just not going to beat us up top for the big play. But these are 3 all-pro caliber wide receivers that are coming at you with a great quarterback and a good offensive line. There should be points scored tonight. The team that I'm actually worried about scoring points is the Philadelphia Eagles, not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But also keep in mind, if you're looking at a point spread, a team total, 22.5, 23 in that range, sure, they should get there. Because if Tampa Bay, Kyle's in the mid to high 20s, the Eagles are going to have to return fire. And one thing we know about the Eagles, down the stretch in games, whether they're winning, tied, or getting blown out, they still show up in the fourth quarter. Some of the factors that we talk about, like the Detroit Lions. There's no quit in this football team, which is a good thing when you look at A, get it back to a cover, or B, maybe get it back to a team total. But the way I look at this, and we're going to start some props here in just a few moments, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are better. And this year, it seems like the better teams are going on the road on Thursday night, and they're winning football games. Why? Because they're the better teams. Flip this one around, Kyle, whereas this was the Eagles going on the road to Tampa Bay, would have a 10-point spread and be like, there we go, revenge of the home team on Thursday nights. But sometimes these teams are so much more talented going on the road. I think the Eagles will hang around with this one, but I do think Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get the win. I do think it'll be close to the total, but I'm looking a little bit more into the prop bets here, Kyle. I have a couple of them that I like. Earlier this morning on the FanDuel Sportsbook, Antonio Brown receptions yardage, over 63.5. With no Rob Gronkowski, you're still going to look to throw the football over the middle. That's where he does his damage. I think Antonio Brown has a chance to have a good game. Also taking a look at Leonard Fournette. Everybody runs on the Eagles. And if he's going to get the market share of the backfield, Kyle, 62.5 rush yards is not a lot for a starting running back against the Philadelphia Eagles. Chuba Hubbard dominated last week. Clyde Edwards-Helaire the week before. The Dallas Cowboys, everybody ran wild on them at that point. So that's the perspective I look at it from that angle. And also, an anytime touchdown prop here. Not looking at it from my perspective, Kyle, on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but for the Philadelphia Eagles side. Dallas Goedert is not going to play in this game. Was not cleared off the COVID list at 4 o'clock, so he's inactive, which means Zach Ertz is going to get, 75, 80, 85% of the tight end snaps and all the red zone targets. I think he has a really good chance to score a touchdown tonight, Kyle. I'll take him at plus 200. We'll go over the odds boost in a minute, but that's where I'm looking on this game tonight here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and I think you touched on it beautifully, talking about how the Eagles perform in the fourth quarter, which is why I stuck to the first half, the truest form here. I don't want, the Bucs up 33-20 late in this game. Jalen Hurts leads them down the field, and they score a meaningless touchdown, and I lose my cover here. So I like the -4. You can get some 3.5s in that first half. I think that makes a lot of sense. I just don't want to get reamed by that backdoor cover, pun intended, absolutely. So I'm with you. I did a little sprinkle on that first half. But where I'm really at is on a couple of props. I mentioned the Jalen Hurts rushing prop, and that's just because the ball is going. You take a starting running back like Miles Sanders, and if you look at his prop today, the over/under in carries is 8.5. Think about that. For a starting running back, his carries are
so it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. He plays 66% of the offensive snaps, and I agree with it because, for number one, Nick Sirianni doesn't seem to have any appetite to hand the ball off to Miles Sanders. He's quickly becoming one of the worst head coaches in the league, if not the worst. He is really bad. You mentioned that defense, how they keep those 2 safeties back, and you watch them. They will not make an adjustment. If that's not working, they will continue to do the same vanilla defense over and over and over again. And if you drop your safeties back and leave the underneath open, there is nobody in the history of this game who likes taking the dump off more than Tom Brady does. So I think it's going to be a long day. You could see a lot of longer drives. You probably won't see big, massive plays over the top because the Eagles don't let that go. So exactly. So it sort of makes me worried a little bit and makes me lean sort of to the under overall. But for me, it's Bucks in the first half. The props, I mentioned the Jalen Hurts rushing prop. I think he gets over 45 yards rushing in this game. And another one I like is Kenneth Gainwell. So if they're not going to be able to run the ball, they're going to throw the ball to these running backs. Kenneth Gainwell in the last 3 games has 15 targets. You're getting over 24.5 yards receiving at minus 114. I think he gets to 25 yards receiving. He might see a few more snaps this week on a short week. We know it's a brick wall up front, and you're not going to be able to run. Little swing passes to Gainwell. 15. If he gets 5 targets tonight, he breezes past that 24.5. So I like that quite a bit as well. I did consider the Jalen Hurts passing props, but 284. He's only done it a couple times this year. It is the right matchup, but now you're trusting. I don't think we could call the Eagles receiving core good. I think that would be a stretch.
Inexperience is probably
is probably the best way to do it here. So that makes me just a little bit nervous. I thought about Giovanni Bernard over 12.5 yards receiving. Now, he doesn't get a ton of snaps, but when he does, he can get there. And again, if they're going to play the safeties back and not give the big plays, when Giovanni Bernard comes in, he's going to be wide open over the middle. It's one catch, so over 12.5 for Bernard at minus 125, I think makes a ton of sense as well.
Yeah, the lower level props here for the running backs are hilarious. Even like the backup guys who are supposed to get carries, Ronald Jones, like 14.5 or whatever, 15.5, Gainwell 14.5. They're astronomically low, which just tells you a sign of the times here in the NFL. Also, I'm on my application that I pay for an application that tells me wind. So I'm going tonight at Lincoln Financial Field. I'm looking right at it right now. At 8 o'clock tonight, winds of 4 miles an hour with a chance of a gust up to 10. Perfect. And if we take a look at 11 o'clock when the game ends, the wind's coming in, Kyle. You know why? Because the wind goes from 4 miles an hour to 5 miles an hour and a gust of up to 8 miles an hour. So watch out for those supremely windy conditions. I always love bad information is my favorite thing, particularly on the weather. It's so easy to go find correct weather forecast, and you just see nonsense stuff come out all the time. Remember the one Dodger Stadium the other night? Oh, my God, wind's blowing. So I go to my application. I'm like, the wind is blowing in. What's the game end up? 1-0 because nobody could hit a baseball more than 250 feet. So I know we like that, Kyle.
Yeah, exactly. And especially when you're supposed to be this renowned weather person and you have all these things, like, get the hell out of here. That's why I'm glad you're over there. I'm like, well, it doesn't sound like that's what's actually happening. So I'm not exactly sure why that's up there, but neither here nor there. But yeah, Bucks first half, like some of those props. I will say, as I look, a guy like, Zach Ertz's numbers at 46.5. He's just not that explosive. It makes me a little bit nervous. Maybe a little sprinkle on OJ Howard with no Rob Gronkowski. He's going to see more snaps. He's at 13.5 as well. I could see him getting to 15 yards on one play. More of an explosive tight end than Cameron Brate will be. So some of those lower receiving numbers, Gainwell, Bernard, OJ Howard, and I like that Hurts rushing prop as well.
All right, let's go Eagles. And also, Esteban, if you're listening back there, throw up the odds boost here because I have one of my favorites here tonight. Now, they do have the prop for, one or more touchdown passes in each half for each one of these quarterbacks. But I usually like to do those when their odds boost. The last one I took, which is on Sunday Night Football, did cash in the fourth quarter. Thought it should have cashed a little bit earlier than that. But anytime you're going to give me Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen each to throw a touchdown in each half, that's ridiculous. Took that prop and it hit. They do have it tonight, so I like that a little bit. But I'm going to look at this one here tonight on the FanDuel Sportsbook. I already bet it, $50. It's at a plus 280 price. The Eagles and the Buccaneers to each score 1 rushing touchdown per team and 1 passing touchdown per team. So you're probably looking at this going, all right, they're at least going to throw 1 touchdown apiece. We know that. So you just need it to line up where you get like a 1st and goal at the 1-yard line, Leonard Fournette, a quarterback sneak out of Tom Brady on one side, and then for the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts, as you talk about, Kyle. You like his rushing prop over? How many times do you see him scrambling around in the red zone here? A simple read option, which he either hands off to a running back or keeps himself, might be able to walk in. But that's a 280 price. So 1 touchdown apiece, rushing and receiving for not in a half, just in the game itself. For each the Eagles and the Buccaneers, I'm on that at plus 280. Any odds boost that you're looking at for tonight's football game, Kyle?
Well, now that you told me the wind's not going to be bad, I like that quite a bit. So I'm looking at when Brady and Hurts to both pass for 300-plus yards is at plus 300. I think they could both get there relatively easily. So I kind of like both. It's really not a stretch with that secondary for Tampa Bay. I guess the only concern would be, do the Bucs have so much success running the ball and Brady's thumbs maybe bugging them a little bit where they hand it off more than usual? So that would be the one hesitation there. But, Brady's on fire. That offense is on fire. I know the Eagles secondary has some inflated numbers, but you got to remember the competition that they have played. Vontae Maddox has been very good in the slots. Darius Slay is putting up Darius Slay type numbers from a couple of years ago. But you're right. When you see them against elite offenses, not so great. I consider Tampa Bay to be an elite offense tonight. I think both quarterbacks get to 300 yards. I'll take that plus 300.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It does, because when you take a look this morning when I was going over the FanDuel numbers, Kyle, like you see that as a nice boost. Well, Tom Brady's prop was 300.5 yards. Jalen Hurts' was 285. It's not like, hey, Jalen Hurts is 215.5. He's got to get to 300 yards. Obviously not the case here. All right. So Thursday Night Football, let's put that bad boy to bed tonight. I do expect the Bucs to win. Won't be happy when they do, and I certainly will be rooting on my Eagles. But I do think there's some nice prop bets that we can get down on and make some money overall tonight. So your last look at this game tonight, Kyle, what do you got?
Taking Bucks -4, Hurts over 41.5 yards rushing, Gainwell over 24.5 yards receiving, and I might do a little light sprinkle as well on that Bernard over 12.5 and OJ Howard over 13.5 with no Gronkowski. And the way the Eagles play with those safeties back, the middle of the field, the underneath stuff could be at a premium tonight, and we know Tom Brady loves taking advantage of that, so I think that makes a ton of sense as well.